Tesla has dominated the news cycle this week. Some good news, some bad news. We'll talk about it all, and we'll start with Elon Musk elevating the Tesla semi-truck to a higher priority and calling to bring it to full production soon. Though there is a very good ulterior motive why. Tesla has also achieved probably one of the biggest milestones in its history while it struggles with the Model Y production and possibly demand, as well as some of the trouble at the factory, and it also canceled some of the solar roof reservations. A new gateway drug for the future electric car owners is introduced by Ford. I love those. BMW is finally ready to bring a really fully electric crossover to the market, and another electric pickup truck getting closer to its unveiling date. All of this is coming up next. Welcome to E4 Electric, your number one source of electric car scoop. If this is your first time here and you are interested in everything that's going on in the world of electric cars, go ahead and click on that subscribe button and the bell notification icon so you don't miss anything moving forward. First, let's start with the leaked email that Elon sent to Tesla employees. I think this is a much smarter way to get your thoughts out without getting in trouble with SEC by maybe tweeting it. This way he just writes an email, he knows it's going to be leaked. As a matter of fact, this time he actually confirmed that that was the email that he wrote, which is kind of unusual, but he did. And the memo mentioned that he wants to bring the semi-truck into production much sooner than we all thought. Now, the reason we all thought that it was going to be next year is because, well, he told us so a few months ago at the Q1 conference call, claiming that that's where the production is going to start, and the limited production would start at the end of this year. Now, in this week's memo, he said that the truck is already in the limited production, which only confused all of us even more, because I don't think anyone has seen any more prototypes than the two that we've been seeing around since the unveiling in 2017. And yes, that's right, that's me behind the wheel of the semi-truck, which I think not many people got to do. So I think I was very lucky, and that was definitely a fun experience. Now, the powertrain and the battery is going to be made at the Nevada factory. That's what Elon mentioned in the memo, and the rest of the truck would be made in other states. Now, we know they're looking for a location for the next factory. That's going to take some time to build, so I'm not really sure what he means by accelerating the production, or at least the full production of the semi-truck. All right, so why such sudden change of mind, especially without a clear path towards the accelerated production? Well, there is something else that's going on, and that's Nikola Motors, essentially a competitor in electric semi-truck production to Tesla. And the thing is, they went IPO this week, which was considered to be a successful IPO. Well, it wasn't technically an IPO, it was a reverse merger with already publicly traded company Vector IQ, but this is something that got Elon really excited about his own semi-truck. And he, as you can see, he sent out this tweet, which obviously, some could call it clever, but whatever. Reference to Nikola Motors. Now, I should also mention that Nikola Motors has filed a lawsuit against Tesla, claiming that their semi-truck looks way too much to their semi-truck. I don't know what's going to happen with that, but these companies don't like each other very much, even though they are named after the same guy. For more, we turn to the president of My Tesla Adventure and our weekly contributor, Eli Burton. All right, Eli, what changed?
So look, here's the biggest thing that changed. The timing of this email, this leaked email that Elon Musk sent out to his staff, basically saying that they're now going to prioritize ramping production of the Tesla Semi, is because CEO of Nikola Motors, Trevor Milton, has been on social media trying to connect his company to Tesla and suggesting that the Nikola Semi is actually a competitor for the Tesla Semi. And this Nikola Semi is using hydrogen fuel cells. And that's a technology that Elon hates. So he is capitalizing on all this attention being given to Nikola, which, by the way, who hasn't shipped the product yet, and he's redirecting it to the Tesla Semi.
Do you think it's a good strategy to give, essentially, Eli may not think that they're competitors, but they are, regardless of what what type of fuel they're running on. Like, all the diesel trucks are still competitors as well. Do you think it's a good idea to give so much publicity to the company you're essentially competing with?
Well, here's the thing. Elon didn't give publicity to the company because he never once mentioned them and didn't once give them any credit in anything that he was saying. He never responded to any of their tweets. In fact, he stole attention away from them. And also, let's be real, neither of them are competing right now at all because neither of them are actually shipping the products in which they're going to be competitors. So, whether or not Nikola becomes a competitor of Tesla by actually shipping a product does still remain to be seen. Unlike Tesla, who's now shipped 4 vehicles and has has global manufacturing that's been tested and proven, Nikola is an unproven upstart with a very sketchy behavior happening around them. But let's go back to what you said about the diesel vehicles. I don't think in really any world diesel vehicles are actually going to be competing with electric semis. They may exist in the same market, but at the cost models and the value propositions of these vehicles, I don't think there's actually going to be heads-up competition between ICE semis and electric once they become scaled productions.
Well, the trucking company and rental companies will have to choose at some point whether still buy, let's say, a Volvo semi, or Daimler semi, or a Tesla semi or Nikola semi, right? So they will still have to make that choice. So I kind of look at them as all as competitors, and I think Elon should as well.
Well, I mean, it's only competition if a customer is actually looking at two products as comparable and they're going to choose one of the two. What's going to happen as these semis first come out is there's going to be specific use cases that these electric semis are going to be so much better at. Anybody who can get their hands on them is going to buy them first. Then, as these things continue to have broader applications, have more mega charging stations, have more and more miles of range, the economics are going to be so that if you were buying a non-electric semi, it would only be because you couldn't wait long enough to get down the wait list. The gap in the economics between these two products are such. I mean, it'd be like going back and saying that the iPhone and the Nokia were competitors. Are you kidding? When the iPhone came out, if you were still buying a Nokia, you were not an iPhone customer. So they existed in the same technology market, but they weren't competing for the same customers.
Okay, fair enough. Now let's talk about, what does Elon really mean, and what does it really mean to basically take semi to production? They just mentioned that they're pushing it yet another year into the 2021, and the space is tight in all of the factories right now, and the next one hasn't really even started the constructions. They haven't even picked the actual spot. On top of that, they're having issues ramping up Model Y production again, right, due to the pandemic. What is it going to really look like to shift the priority to semi?
So now Tesla has multiple factories. And this is actually something Elon talked about a couple of years ago, that in the past, Tesla as a company was only ever good at really just ramping up one product at a time. And one of the things that was coming that was going to change is, as an organization, they were going to get good at being able to handle multiple products at a time. So what's being communicated here is that's now what they're tackling. Also, Elon did specify that the batteries and some of the other components of this Tesla Semi are going to be made out of the existing factory in Sparks, Nevada, which, by the way, they are not yet using to capacity. Probably the biggest indicator of all this means that Tesla has solved something in their battery supply chain and clearly have a new battery that's coming out that they already have gotten to a point that they can now take to industrial scale. And they're starting to build out the manufacturing line and start getting ready to ramp up production for. Because that's actually the biggest constraint of this whole thing. It's batteries. So the fact that Tesla is doubling down on going all in on this indicates that whatever they're releasing on battery day, they're ready to start building the manufacturing and start producing.
Also, Tesla has achieved one of the biggest, if not the biggest, milestones in their history. They became the most valuable automaker based on the market cap once their stock price has crossed $1,000 per share, which is crazy. I did not think that this was going to happen anytime soon. They overtaken Toyota, kicked them out of the #1 spot that Toyota has had for a while. Let me remind you that Toyota makes over 10 million cars per year, where Tesla will probably sell about 500,000 cars this year. Now notice, interestingly, Ferrari is the #6 spot, and look, Nikola Motors, now that they're a publicly traded company, is at #11. I should mention, and there's a little bit of history here, that Toyota actually sold Tesla its factory, the Fremont factory, for $42 million back in 2010, and at that time it owned about $50 million in stock, but then sold it all by 2017. And another interesting point is that remember when the stock was about, $750, $760 per share, and even back then Elon thought that the stock was too high. Go figure. All right, before we get to the next story, a quick reminder that this video and this channel is sponsored by Avanex, the Tesla community's accessory store. Use E4Electric, the name of this channel, as a discount code for all of your purchases over $100. Now let's move on to the next story, and I gotta tell you, I didn't give this story the priority it probably deserves until Tom Moloughney, one of our weekly contributors, told me that that's the story that he wants to talk about this week. Now, if you watched my News Digest video from last week, you probably noticed a segment about the Toyota RAV4 plug-in hybrid, which I believe is going to be the most sold plug-in hybrid of all times. It's actually a very decent car, believe it or not, and I know I'm talking about Toyota, but it will have an electric range of 42 miles. It will actually cost a relatively reasonable price, but this week Ford has introduced Escape plug-in hybrid crossover with 37 miles of electric range, so it's a little bit less than Toyota RAV4, but it will be $5,000 cheaper. As many of you know, I myself drive a Chevy Volt, which is a plug-in hybrid, which I absolutely love. As a matter of fact, I haven't put gas into my Volt for about 3 months now. And you probably know that I believe that plug-in hybrids with a decent electric range, which means over 30 miles or so, is a great gateway drug, as I call it, for those people who are not comfortable buying an all-electric car just now, but want to move into that direction. So they have a bit of a safety net with the gas engine that they can always use, and they always can stop by a gas station, which they're used to, but at the same time, it's making them comfortable of using electric cars in the future and hopefully buying an all-electric car next. So here's Tom Moloughney, the Inside EVs contributor, who chose this story as one of the most important ones this week. All right, Tom, so what is the big deal?
So, I think it is kind of a big deal because if you remember, a lot of people, when the Chevy Volt first came out, were saying, geez, I wish Chevy would introduce the Volt in a plug-in hybrid crossover like the Equinox, the Chevy Equinox. Why don't they put Volt Tech in the Equinox? Well, this is kind of that, except Ford's doing it, not GM. And, for a lot of people aren't ready to go full BEV, Alex. And for those people that are maybe thinking about, maybe they're EV curious, this works out for them. This car is going to get close to 40 miles per charge. Many people are going to drive all day on just electric and use hardly any gas, depending on what your driving cycle is. So, it's coming in a package that people want today, these small crossovers. I think it works, and I'm glad Ford's putting it out.
EV curious, I like that. Add that to the Urban Dictionary. All right, well, but there are some people, you're right, that believe it's all electric or nothing. Why do you think plug-in hybrids, and I'm talking about like decent range plug-in hybrids, right, 30 plus miles or so, why do you think those are important in kind of making the next step towards the electrification?
So number one, I think they put people in plug-in cars that normally wouldn't be in a plug-in car. Now, we've talked about this briefly. One of the things I do is electric vehicle dealership training. I help train dealers how to sell electric cars. So the feedback that I get from a lot of the client advisors and the salespeople in the dealerships is that a lot of people come into the dealership not thinking about a plug-in vehicle, but then they end up being in a plug-in hybrid because the incentives actually made it less expensive than the gas version. So the people just, they didn't even want a plug-in car, but they ended up getting one. And in that case, as we know, the data shows if you end up in a plug-in car, even a low-range plug-in hybrid, chances are you're going to be in another one, and maybe your next car's full BEV. So, we've called these plug-in hybrids EVs with training wheels. That's a good analogy. And I think that's one of the reasons why it's really important. A lot of people are not ready to go BEV right now. This is going to give people an electric experience with almost 40 miles of range, and it's going to kind of get them hooked on the E.
All right, I totally agree. Now, we can't have a conversation right now about a plug-in hybrid without Toyota, out of all car manufacturers, that kind of emerged as the leader of the plug-in hybrids with their newly announced, that's going actually in production very shortly, RAV4. Do you think this is sort of are they competitors? What do you think about that?
Absolutely. It's a head-to-head competitor, but so's the Mitsubishi Outlander PHEV. Don't forget that. But people don't really think about that because it's not from there's only about 320 or 350 Mitsubishi dealerships in all the U.S. There's 3,000 Ford dealerships and 1,500 Toyota dealerships. So, those Ford and Toyota, much larger automakers, are going to have a much bigger presence. So the RAV4 plug-in hybrid is the direct competitor. The numbers are a little bit better than the Ford Escape. It goes a little bit further on electric. At first, Toyota was saying it was going to be rated at 42 miles. Now we think it's 39. So it's very close in EV range to the Ford Escape, but you pay for that. It's $5,000 more, but you also get all-wheel drive with the Toyota RAV4, and the Ford Escape's not available in all-wheel drive. So really depends where you are in the market. If you want all-wheel drive and you have the extra money, the Toyota is more powerful, and it's going to be a little bit more capable. But that's still, even with the incentives, the RAV4 is going to be priced out of a lot of people's budget. The Escape starts at $33,000. It qualifies for $6,800 from the federal tax credit. So immediately it costs less than the gas version of the Escape hybrid in the SE trim, which is what the plug-in hybrid starts at, the SE trim. So before you even start, it actually costs less than the gas version. And then there's some state incentives in many cases that'll make it even more appealing.
Of course, let me remind you that unlike Toyota, Ford is not just concentrating on making a good plug-in hybrid, they're just about to go in production and start deliveries probably at the end of this year of their all-electric Mustang Mach-E. By the way, if you want to hear more from Tom Moloughney, let me remind you that he is a weekly contributor on this channel, so either subscribe to this channel or subscribe to his own channel, and I put the link to it in the description of this video. All right, now let's get back to some Tesla news, and this one is a little bit concerning. Per Electric, there are at least 4 people at the Fremont factory that tested positive for the coronavirus. As you know, there was a big battle between Tesla and the Alameda County as far as when to close the factory, when to reopen the factory. Now, Tesla pretty much won every single round, but of course, now the reports that are coming out, including the pictures, that Tesla is not able to maintain the 6 feet distance that's required for the factory to be reopened. That's a concern. Elon took to Twitter and posted a report claiming that Tesla workplace safety is 5% better than industry average. I'm not going to discuss that right now, though we might get back to it at some point. Now, if I was Elon and I wanted to prove that the workplace safety is up to par, I would do exactly the same thing that they've already done by putting out the time-lapse videos of creating a Model S or Model 3, except for this time, I would put it together to show that there is social distancing as per the requirement. And I really hope that's the case. I hope there are no more coronavirus cases coming out of the factory, because essentially at some point they might have to shut it down, and I don't think anybody wants that. In other news, Tesla has been canceling, that's right, canceling some of the solar roof installation orders that they have been taking since 2017. You would put up a $1,000 deposit, or in this case is an interest-free loan to Tesla, and then of course whenever Tesla was going to be ready to install in your area, you will be one of the first ones to get one. Now, if you remember, I did a report about a couple of years ago on one of the first customer installed solar roofs in San Jose, California, but since then there hasn't been that many installed, though they have ramped up the production, about 1,000 solar roofs produced per week. That's already happening right now, and they said they would have 1,000 solar roofs installed by the end of this year. So why is Tesla all of a sudden turning the customers away? Well, because they've decided that they're not going to be servicing some of the areas that they planned originally, and so now they're going to be giving out refunds. Though, if you used your credit card back in 2017, you may not be able to get a refund on the same card if it was canceled. I should remind you that the third version of the solar roof, or the glass roof as they call it now, was introduced in 2000 2019. And now that I think about it, when I used to have a Tesla, there was a referral program that would reward you with an early access token when you referred a third customer for that particular program. And even though I got to that point, I was never offered that token, even though I'm here in California. BMW is on the verge of producing the very first real all-electric car. This is an iX3, the all-electric crossover with over 240 miles of promised EPA range. It was unveiled in 2018. It will be made in China and then exported to Europe. They recently said that here in the United States, we're not getting one anytime soon, but we've heard that story before. BMW has already produced over 200 production prototypes, which they will be testing, and the deliveries should start at the end of this year. BMW iX3 is going to be a competitor to the Tesla Model Y, which had a great start. However, per leaked email from Elon Musk to his employees, it looks like they are having some problems ramping up the production for the Model Y. It looks like they're still not at the same rate of production as they were before the pandemic. Sandy Monroe, one of the monthly contributors to this channel, has told me in one of our conversations that he believes that Tesla will have the easiest time ramping up production than any other manufacturers due to its vertical integration.
Tesla is pretty much a vertically integrated kind of company. So their suppliers are living in-house. So they'll have a small advantage over everybody else.
But that's not the most troubling news about the Model Y this week. It looks like Tesla has added the Model Y to its referral program, which usually indicates the lack of demand. To remind you that the Model 3 took over a year to be added to the same referral program, and in the very beginning, it was the most expensive version, which kind of made sense. Let me remind you that you get 1,000 miles of supercharging when you refer somebody to buy another Tesla, which now includes the Model Y. The referral program has come back after Elon said it was unsustainable. There are also reports of accelerated deliveries for the Model Y, which also unfortunately indicates the lower demand. Are you guys ready for another all-electric truck? I personally don't think there could ever be enough, but ready or not, one new electric truck is going to be unveiled on June 22nd by Lordstown Motors. Now, you probably have heard of this company from a different subtle ways. One of them is from this Donald Trump tweet, believe it or not. This one is about sale of the GM factory that was going to be abandoned, but essentially was sold for $20 million. You can't even buy a decent home in Beverly Hills for that kind of money. The sale was to Workhorse, which is not really quite true. It was actually to Lordstown Motors, the company that was spun off out of the Workhorse and has the same CEO, Steve Burns, who was a guest on this show as the CEO of Workhorse when they were working on their plug-in hybrid electric truck called W15, which became a base for the Endurance, the all-electric truck that they're just about to unveil right now. The deliveries will start in January of 2020. It will have a range of a little bit over 200 EPA equivalent miles, top speed of 80 miles an hour. So I guess you won't be able to outrun cops in this truck, but a towing capacity of 6,000 pounds. This truck will start at $52,500. A quick shout out to all of my Patreons, including this one, which could be a son of Elon Musk, judging by his or her name. But anyway, if you want to join my Patreon community, go to patreon.com/e4electric. I put that link in the description of this video. Looking forward to all of your comments. Other than that, see you guys next time, and remember to stay charged.